Hello, this is Greg Allison with Galactic Greg's coming to you tonight with breaking news. The inside skinny on the balloon, the party balloon, the amateur balloon shot down by the U.S. Air Force over the Yukon territory. Some of you try to challenge my story in the comments, but guess what? I got it. I got it all. I got the inside scoop. I had it all along. I was asked not to reveal because of some investigations that were going on at that time. But it is out now. And guess what? It was broke first of all the media in the United States. It was broke on my channels first. So you ought to subscribe to my channel because you never know what you're going to see here. Subscribe, bang the notification bell, and click all because buckle up. We're going to bring you the story. Look at this image here. This is Av Week. Av Week come out with this article 2 days after me, and all the media is fawning and giving them credit for breaking this story. Isn't that funny? But look at this, guys. The Hobby Club's missing balloon feared shot down by the U.S. Air Force. Well, I know a little bit more about that. And by the way, I'll show you this group's website. This is the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade. This is their website. I'm going to show you a whole lot more. But let's go back to this article right here a minute, where I was a minute ago. Here we go. Look at this, guys. The funny thing is, in the dead center of this photograph, in the top dead center of this article published by Av Week, is a certain individual here, a mystery individual that they don't even name here because they don't know who this individual is. They don't know this shaker and mover behind this entire movement. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing you this individual tonight because he's none less than one of my very best friends in the whole wide world, the eminent Bill Brown. Bill, tell us something. Say hello to the world.
Hello, world. And great to be on your show there, Greg.
I have stopped sharing so people could actually see you. So there we go.
It's been an interesting wild ride. So I was very concerned tracking that particular balloon. We have usually about 15 to 20 of these Pico balloons that circle the globe. Most of them are amateur radio operators and clubs, scientists, and also students, both elementary, middle school, high school, and colleges and universities all fly these long duration Pico balloons. I was one of in the group of the first people to go around the world. I wasn't the first to fly one around the world. The UK High Altitude Society started out. They discovered that these party balloons, the 36-inch diameter silver balloons you see in the party store, they found a way to make them float. And if you put in about a quarter of the normal volume and get the lift just right and build a payload that weighs under an ounce, you can actually fly something significant to track these balloons in real time through an HF frequency that can be heard thousands of miles away through a really unique weak signal propagation mode. It's called Whisper. And the power output on these transmitters is on the order of just barely enough to light an LED. So they're totally solar powered, and most of them weigh under half an ounce, which is only about, most of them are under 15 grams.
Well, your payload, you said this payload was 8 grams. 8 grams, there's 28 grams.
This particular payload was around 8 grams, and they were flying a 32-inch metal aluminized mylar balloon that you find in the party store. It was I think these balloons cost about $13 a piece. And so, they used a $450,000 Sidewinder missile to shoot down a $12 party balloon, which had a little tracker below it that we were monitoring in real time on a website.
Now, I'm going to show everybody that website. Remember, hey, I want to give a special thanks to Lady LaBelle. She just gave a $20 super chat tonight. So thank you, Lady LaBelle. Guys, you don't get the inside scoop, the inside skinny on any other channel on YouTube like you're getting right here, right now. And Bill Brown and I have been friends from way back. He's like a brother from another mother. And we have been partners in crime in launching balloons and running from our lives from rockets.
We launched rockets from balloons, big rockets from balloons.
Exactly. And we have tracked hunting balloon payloads up where they filmed Deliverance and things like that. And Bill Brown heard the banjos and he got a little concerned about it. So we got a million war stories to tell.
We've landed balloons in Deliverance country. That's right.
That's right. That's right.
So anyways, we've about 7 years ago, this Pico ballooning effort started up. I've been launching weather balloons with student experiments and amateur radio on them for the last 35 years. In fact, I was the very first person to send a live TV camera that transmitted in real time a TV transmission from the live camera clear up into the stratosphere to over 100,000 feet above the Earth. And you see the blackness of space, the curvature of the Earth. And the reason I did it, because I read this, saw this documentary, and I read the book about Project Man High, where Colonel Joe Kittinger in the 50s and 60s flew on these massive balloons and parachuted out from 102,000 feet. Just by dropping, he almost exceeded the speed of sound just by falling.
Yeah. Oh, he did. He actually did break the sound barrier.
So he was exceeding the speed of sound, and just by falling. And the reading this book and seeing this documentary, you see the blackness of space during broad daylight, and you see this thin blue haze of the Earth's atmosphere. And I said, I really want to see that view, but I don't want to risk my life. And I don't have millions to buy a spacesuit, a balloon, and a gondola. So I came up with an extremely low cost way of doing it. I went to a National Weather Service where they launch these radio sondes, which study winds aloft patterns. And they have a big rubber latex weather balloon and a little payload they stick underneath it. And they launch 2 of these a day from 70 sites across the United States. So I watched how they did it. And I said, that's pretty cool. So I developed my own payload that had a little tracking transmitter we could home in and figure out where it landed, and a TV transmitter with the camera. And we launched it. It went up to over 100,000 feet, and we could see that view that Joe Kittinger had seen, the blackness of space. And for you flat earthers out there, we could definitely see that the Earth had a curve to it. So
yeah, they want to blame that on fisheye lens, but we know better.
Well, no, this camera didn't have a fisheye lens, and you could clearly see it. There was a curve to the Earth. But back in 1987, that was a real feat to find the world's smallest TV camera and develop a little TV transmitter. It could be seen for 300, 400 miles in all directions. So it was just phenomenal. So I continued to launch balloons with more and more sophisticated payloads. And let me make a point here. A lot of people ask, isn't this a hazard to aviation? And how can you fly something that goes through flight lanes for commercial traffic or private aviation? How can you do that safely? Well, there have been FAA rules in place for many, many years. And these rules specify a weight limit and a density limit. Basically, it's 6 pounds per payload for a total of 12 pounds. That's a lot of weight that you can
put 2 payloads in one balloon train is what he's saying. What you do is you have a long string as a flight train. You have one up here and then one several feet below that. But this was based on the idea of the weight of a bird in flight, which these planes have to be built to withstand anyway. But this little Pico set he was talking about, which is like 8 grams, which is actually less than a third of an ounce, not just half, less than a third of an ounce. Guys, there's dragonflies that weigh there's big dragonflies that weigh 7 grams. So this is about the weight of a big dragonfly. So it's really a nothing thing. And these party balloons go up all the time. So this is a nothing thing for an aircraft at all. And so they fly lots of them. We're going to show you the website. We're going to show you some tracks of these things. We're going to show you about the group. We got a lot of stuff to show and share with you about this tonight, guys. So this is the inside scoop. Not only that, but Bill Brown, he actually did some mentoring and guidance for the guy who built the payload. He built the payload that flew on the balloon that got shot down on the Yukon. And furthermore, he builds these things himself. He builds lots of them and he sells them. And so maybe this is a solution. Maybe some more balloons ought to be carrying these things because they're cheap and lightweight, and they will help track a balloon. I mean, this whole idea that it's UFO, we can't find it. It's on the internet. It's on the web. Anybody can look this stuff up and find it. So what a story, man. And to take a $400 and some odd $1,000 missile and shoot at a little party balloon, that's interesting.
Yeah, I liken that. That's akin to swatting a mosquito with a sledgehammer.
It's bigger than that. It's not trying
much bigger than a sledgehammer. Yes, a pile driver. But it was a huge overreaction. Basically, the radar systems have always had a filter in them to filter out slow-moving objects and small objects like this that couldn't possibly be anything that's manned aircraft. And otherwise, they would be inundated with people letting go party balloons from a wedding or birthday or some event or used car lot. All these balloons could be up there floating around. I mean, I would think several hundred of these probably get released a day over the United States that don't have any tracking on them. And are they going to go and shoot them all down? So what they did is they just removed all the filters on their radar and made it as sensitive as possible. And now they're seeing all kinds of stuff, and they probably could see a hummingbird. But this one particularly showed up because this balloon had a metallized coating, a luminized coating on it. So it was a perfect radar reflector in that regard. So that's why it showed up. Plus we have a little wire antenna. And so that'll show up as well if they remove all those filters and make it as sensitive as possible. So it's no surprise we've been doing these around the world Pico balloons now for at least 7 years now. And I say at every given moment, there's at least 20 of them flying around the world. And several are going across the United States every day as they go around the world. And some of these have been around the world upwards of 30 times or more. I've had one that went around the world 6.5 times. And I have one right now. I've had several of my payloads that were flown by a university grant from the University of Alabama, Huntsville. One of the students there is a grad student in meteorology and atmospheric science, and he got a grant to go to Antarctica. And he took 8 of these Pico balloons, very similar to what was potentially shot down over the Yukon, and he flew them from a German base down in Antarctica in November. And NOAA uses this data to actually improve their wind modeling for basically storm prediction and weather systems. So you can thank these Pico balloons that are in the news right now for helping study atmospheric science and improve our weather predictions.
Well, they report both winds by where they drift and temperature.
They report your position, altitude, the wind speed, wind direction, and the temperature and the solar panel voltage. They're totally solar powered. We can't afford the weight of a battery, so they're only operating during daylight hours. But in the South Pole, it's their summer down there, and right around December, we had a couple of payloads that were flying near the South Pole that were illuminated all day long, and they were operating 24 hours a day, totally solar powered. That's pretty cool. So a lot of these were flying around the coastline of Antarctica. Some of them went directly over the South Pole, and some of them got kicked out. A couple of them went almost up to the equator. So there's 3 of them still flying out of the 8 that were launched 3 months ago. So they're really a fascinating tool that'll help atmospheric scientists out. And it's free. If the government did this program of launching these floater balloons to study the wind currents to help their wind modeling, it would cost millions of dollars. Our hobbyists, amateur radio, and other experimenters who fly these balloons, our data is free for use for atmospheric science to improve everything, improve weather models. So it's a real benefit to mankind for these to be flying. And STEM education. We go into schools with these. And a traditional weather balloon, we used to go in with one of these big weather balloons and fly big experiments for the students. But it costs a whole tank of helium. Back then it cost $82 and the balloon cost over $100. Nowadays, helium is such in short supply, it could cost you $400 or $500 just for enough helium to inflate one of these weather balloons. So we've all gone, most of us have gone to hydrogen, but school systems don't allow us to bring hydrogen tanks into the school. So these Pico balloons are perfect because a party balloon only takes about a cubic foot of lifting gas. So a little small tank that you can even buy at Walmart for 30 bucks will inflate one of these and take it off the ground with a student with this tracking experiment. Now, here's the really cool thing that really hooks in the STEM students. We went to a 5th grade class in Coleman, Alabama, West Point Middle School, and we got the entire 5th grade class out there. And we asked some trivia questions, and the trivia question was this: who was the first man to set foot on the moon? 10 of the kids knew that. So out of those 10, I asked, who was the second person to set foot on the moon? And 1 kid knew it. So that's the one we let launch the balloon, and they had a ball. Now, you can actually track these on your smartphone in real time. It reports its position every 10 minutes. And so we had the kids all tracking this as it went around the world, and they learn about the cultures and the countries that they fly over. And you can actually split the Google map that's on these tracking websites and see an image of what was below them that was taken by Google Maps. We actually had one fly over Tunisia, and it flew right over where they filmed Star Wars, and you could actually see Tatooine City. And I mean, the Mos Eisley, it was the city on Tatooine. And actually it was near the actual town of Tatooine. So that's where they came up with the name for the movie.
That's funny. That's funny.
But, things like that, really, every day the teacher would show where the balloon was on the map. They learned about geography, and then they'd talk about the culture and the people that the balloon was flying over. And it was just fascinating. They're flying their own mini space mission for under $200, which is incredible. And this is where our future engineers and scientists are going to come from, by inspiration like this. And amateur radio.
If we don't inspire the kids to study, then there's nobody going to be out there to keep the nuclear plants from melting down, or the airplanes from falling on our heads when we're laid up in the nursing homes.
That's right. That's right.
We got to get these kids on board.
Now, I must emphasize that we follow the FAA rules to the letter, and they're very clear about the weight limits. And we're so far under the weight limit, that the maximum weight limit, that it's this. Basically, if you flew a note card that says, hey, we launched this balloon from our school, it's about the same weight and would have the same effect. And
you're breaking up, Bill. Breaking up. All right, we're losing Bill here. I don't know what happened there. Let me see if I still got him in the. Yeah, he's got a bad signal there. He's out in a rural community.
Or if it struck a plane, it would probably slip around the plane instead of getting sucked into the engine in the first place. So it's totally safe, and it is legal to be flying in the jet stream. We call these jet stream floaters. And it's usually the altitude we fly at with these newer balloons. We're pretty much above most jet traffic. Some of these are now flying between, we typically fly between 35 and 50,000 feet. And these are super pressure balloons. They go to one altitude and stay there because they pressurize in the balloon. And when the density of the gas inside and the weight of the balloon and payload equals the amount of air that was displaced, that's where it's going to stick and stay. So it just floats right along. It will vary a little bit as the atmospheric pressure for highs and lows happen, but they can go up and down about 1,000 feet or so, sometimes more than that. And at times, I've seen them during this time of year in the jet stream go over 200 miles an hour ground speed. That's pretty impressive for a little tiny party balloon. They can go around the world in 9 to 10 days if the conditions are right.
9 or 10 days.
9 or 10 days all the way around the world.
Wow.
So this particular balloon that was likely shot down was just entering Alaska. It was on just near the Aleutian Islands, and it was just on the southwest coast of Alaska when the sun went down on it. So I did a little prediction of where it was going to go, and it showed it going into the Yukon, right across southern Alaska and right in the middle of the Yukon. And the next day I heard because this website that we track on, which Greg is going to show to you all, has a button that you can choose the balloon that you're tracking. It'll show a prediction of several days in advance, up to 3 days of where it's going to go. And we can demonstrate that. We'll choose a balloon at random and do a prediction track on it. So the government has everything they need to figure out if a balloon is of a question to them and they don't know who it is. All they have to do is go to this website and say, hey, is this balloon near where we think what we're looking at? Keep in mind, these don't transmit at night. So they tracked it on radar at night. And when sunlight occurred, it wasn't high enough solar elevation to start transmitting again because it was way high in latitude. So there's a limit this time of year of you had to have a certain solar angle, and where it was over the Yukon, it was too far north to transmit at all that day. So we didn't get another transmission on it. And then apparently it was shot down by a Sidewinder missile, which cost almost $500,000. Plus you have to figure out how much fuel, $80,000 an hour to fly an F-22.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So
they had more than one up chasing too.
They shot down 3 balloons, one in northern Alaska, which one of them was a cylinder balloon, and there's a company called Scientific Balloon Solutions that supplies balloons to students and colleges and individuals who want to fly these Pico balloons specifically for that reason. And when they said we shot down a cylinder balloon, that is the shape of his balloons. So I've flown many of his balloons before too. He just did an interview about it on one of the news shows, Newsmax, I think it was. So, I matched the prediction. It showed it being over the Yukon at a specific time, and the time in the report of when they shot it down, the position and the times coincide pretty closely, and the altitude. They reported it at 40,000 feet, it was showing 39,000 feet as it was approaching Alaska. So it was on the same altitude as well. And the other proof is that it had gone down. The prediction showed it going down towards the northern tier states of the United States, still in Canada, but low enough to operate. And it hasn't shown up again for 5 days. And it's been transmitting since October every day. Well, there's some days when it goes high enough that it can't be heard, but 5 days it should have been low enough to be heard. So it's been so reliable that all of a sudden it's not working. My guess is that if it had been hit by, if it truly was the balloon that got hit by this Sidewinder missile, what amuses me is they have a search effort to look for it in the wilds of the Yukon, the wilderness. And that's a rough time even during the summer, but during the winter. But if you hit a foil party balloon with a little 8-gram payload and some little fragile solar panels, it's going to vaporize. It's probably still in the stratosphere, floating as a cloud of dust. There's nothing that's going to be landing in the Yukon except missile parts.
Yeah, missile parts.
I would hate to be a miner or somebody that lives out in the wilderness and is and fisherman or hunter or a pioneer out there in the wilderness. And I'd hate to have the debris from a Sidewinder coming down. It's far more dangerous than if a party balloon came down. This payload, if the party balloon popped and fell out of the sky and it landed on your head, you would say, oh, what was that? I felt something light.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, if it landed on you, you'd hardly notice, huh?
Now, they blamed the administration for not shooting down the China balloon.
That's a different matter entirely, that big balloon. That's
if you could imagine, that weighed thousands of pounds, and if you shoot it, its parachute probably isn't going to work, if it even had one.
I don't think it had one.
It probably had one, but it wouldn't have deployed because they probably had a backpack parachute that you had to command to open, and if they shoot it all up, it's not going to be commanded open, so it's going to fall, and that's what it looked like it did. So I would say that would do between the 1,000-pound or more spy balloon payload, and even the balloon envelope is going to probably weigh 1,000 pounds. And the missile debris landing on somewhere in the continental US, even remote areas, that would do significant damage. So I understand why they didn't shoot it down over the United States.
Well, there's another reason, Bill. When it was 60,000 foot over Montana as a set of mountains, the Pentagon wanted to take it down, but they discovered they couldn't. They didn't have the reach for it. And actually, this should be very disconcerting, because if it had been an EMP weapon, we couldn't have stopped it from getting over the missile fields in the Dakotas and wiping out our intercontinental ballistic missiles. So if they wanted to take an approach like that, they could have got us. We could have sat there and watched it and just sat there and twiddled our thumbs and says, oh boy, what's going to happen? You wouldn't know. They couldn't. The Sidewinder missile has a range of 22 miles, but that is going this way, sideways, going straight up. No, the range is nothing near that. So they were in a world of hurt. And another thing is, you can shoot them with a lot of aircraft have those 20 millimeter cannons on them, the little Gatling gun like weapons that they have fired those into balloons at lower altitudes endlessly and not really affected them much. So, and Bill and I know a little bit about flying balloons with holes in it. We flew one that got ripped up pretty bad because we had a problem with the ordnance. Yeah, you fly ordnance on these balloons, you have to have ordnance to bring them down. So they were saying, oh, they may have ordnance on. Of course they did. They're supposed to. And explosives. So that's how you bring these balloons down, all the tiny ones generally. But the funny thing was, we had a problem with our line cutters that was supposed to bring the balloon down, and we didn't have. We needed a replacement part. We had to send somebody back to the shop to get it. And we were sitting at the old Huntsville airport trying to launch this big polyethylene balloon with a oxidizer tank for our rocket on board, and the winds picked up. If we'd launched it early like we'd planned to, it wouldn't have been a problem. As the day progresses, winds get worse, and the wind was trying to throw this thing into the ground. We're trying to keep them throwing the ground, and somebody ripped a hole in the side of this thing. And we were sitting there with these special gloves and everything, and we had all kind of procedures for handling this thing, but we had some severe wind gusts, and it nearly tore that balloon up. We actually put holes in the balloon, and we still launched it. The balloon still ascended to 40,000 feet. We had a microphone on it, and it had a camera looking straight down at the payload from the top, the bottom of the balloon, looking straight down. Where the payload was a nitrous oxide tank wrapped in orange insulation so it could be seen, and we had a loud beeper on beep 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 beep. And looking down through the hoop, they had the guy lines running down to the tank. It looked like we were looking through a bomb site. As this thing drifted over Huntsville, especially like over a motocross track, we could hear the guys with the bikes. We could hear the traffic, and then we got up to 40,000 feet. We heard somebody zooming in a jet, just buzzing back and around and back. We assumed this was a fighter aircraft trying to figure out what they wanted to do about this thing. And fortunately, if they did try to shoot it down, we didn't hear it, so it didn't sound like they tried to shoot us at all.
Well, we filed a NOTAM before we launched, so
yeah, we always do that.
Check that.
You always do that, and you're supposed to.
For a large balloon, you have to file a NOTAM, or we had a waiver for that one, and that requires, if you're over 12 pounds, you have to file a waiver, which can take several months to do, and you have to communicate with flight traffic centers all along the path.
Yeah, we call the tower. So NOTAM is notice to airmen, for those that don't know, notice to airmen. So we filed the NOTAM, we filed the waivers, we got it all approved. So they all should know what was flying.
Yeah. But we did definitely hear a fighter jet swooping around it to investigate it.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. And then because
we could have been the first to be shot down if he decided to take a pot shot at it.
Yeah. But, since it had a hole ripped in it, it would not go to full altitude. This thing should have hit 100,000 feet, but it didn't. And it came down a little earlier than we wanted it to. It did have a pretty good flight. It flew all the way to Dalton, Georgia, one of Bill Brown's favorite places to go. Actually, I think it was over next to his girlfriend's house. He was going to go visit that day. He has a track record for sending balloons to where he wants to go that night. And
well, when we all arrived at the location.
Wait, back up. Hang on. Let me tell this little story. It didn't start when we arrived there. So this balloon came down. So it had this big orange package under it, and it was going beep, 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 beep. And it was a big silver envelope, and it came down in the backyard. This little old lady who's washing her dishes, she looks at her window, and she sees this thing, this big silver dome landing in her backyard. And it's going beep, 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 beep. She runs and grabs the phone. She calls the sheriff, and she says, "There's a UFO landed in my backyard. Y'all come get this thing." And that's when our guys knocked on the door.
And some of our chase team looked like space aliens.
Yeah, I confirmed her suspicion. Yeah, there was aliens, and we is them.
It took a while for her to open the door until we explained to her what it really was. But I think she called the police, and I don't know who all, but she was really scared.
I heard the sheriff, so she might have called several, but
yeah, she called the local police and the sheriff's department, I think.
Did any of them show up?
No, I don't think so.
They probably thought she was a crank. Oh, listen to this woman's crazy. Ain't no way.
Now, we did land a balloon in that similar area, just south of there. And it landed on this guy's little cattle ranch, and it was 90 feet up in a tree. So we drive in there, and there's 10 chase vehicles, and we're looking at the trees. Says, "How are we going to get it down out of there?" And the guy that owned the land says, "Well, I got a chainsaw. I don't really need that tree. If you want to saw it down, have at it." So he brought a chainsaw out. We sawed his tree down, walked up and got our experiment. He says, "Now, while you're at it, can you saw it up about day long and stack it up next to the house?" So we did, and we ended up with firewood for the winter. And as we were preparing to leave, he came out with all these brown paper bags filled with okra. And I hate okra, but
I love it.
he said, I just picked this from the garden. It's only $10 a bag. And we felt obligated to buy it from him. So he sold 15 bags of okra. And as we were leaving, he says, you all come back again anytime, you hear? So high altitude ballooning can get a little costly. You have to plan for things like that.
We got a guy here that says maybe the Air Force needs to go back to Sopwith Camel biplane to shoot the balloons.
Hey, Snoopy would do a better job.
Snoopy, there you go. Put Snoopy on it. Well, they're just out of range. That's the problem. They're so high up, they're out of range, especially if you get one up to 100,000 feet. There ain't, they couldn't take that one down to 65,000 feet. Most of our balloons have flown over 75,000 feet. We had one that was 75. We designed it that way. Most of them were like 80 and to 100,000. 100,000 is our usual target altitude. We've flown stuff 115 and up. So we've had a lot of balloons go up to different altitudes. We've flown the big plastic polyethylene balloons, and we've flown the latex balloons that go up and pop. And hey, Desert Rose, thank you for that. Thank you so much for there. So we got another super chat here tonight. That's real sweet. So yeah, so Bill Brown and I go way back. And I'm going to show y'all some of these sites here. We have had a lot of adventures and hunting stuff in bear country and everywhere else. So let's look at some other websites here. We'll go back to look at some of these. A lot of people have just joined. Those just joined, I'll start out. This is the article. All the news media is claiming broke the story. And if you're been following me, you know I broke this story 2 whole days beforehand. I actually had the data even before then. I had it the day before, but I just couldn't get the video recorded. Actually, I think I did record it, but that night, but it was really late. I had somebody had an issue I had to deal with, and so I was late recording it. If any video posted after midnight won't get watched.
I want to make a point. This is not the group that flew the balloon. This is an example of the balloon that was shot down, similar, but this is a clear balloon from SBS, from the Scientific Balloon Solutions. And that's my picture up there. I had no idea that was going to show up on this article, but that's my mystery picture on the screen there. I was doing a Zoom call to a middle school. This is a middle school in Minnesota. And I was talking them through how to inflate the balloon to the proper lift via a Zoom call from my home here in Alabama. So but they use this as an example to show the size of the balloon.
Yeah, that's funny. So we couldn't get the group, but guess what? We got the group, and here is the group. This is the organization that launched the balloon that the Air Force shut down, the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade.
Not only that balloon that's yellow near the Aleutian Islands is the actual one that got shot down.
Oh, and it came up and around and got shut down. There you go.
And I sent you the prediction map showing its last position and where it went.
All right. So yeah, okay. Now I understand what it was showing. So you got it right here, and it predicted it all around the country.
Now this website is called amateur.sondhub.org, SONDEHUB, all one word. Stands for radio sonde, but sonde is anything.
Wait. I got to get in that website. We're not there. We're still on.
Well, that's a screenshot from the website.
Yeah, the screenshot's from there. But you know what? They went to showing parachutes.
Hey, scan down a little bit, Greg, before you do that. Oh, well, okay. Well, let's talk about this for a second. People saying, well, isn't it dangerous to be launching all, a few balloons across Canada or the United States? How about 75 twice a day? These are the radio sondes. If you hit the question mark, that welcome screen will go away. On the upper right-hand corner there.
How do you make it go away?
Yeah, that question mark.
Just hit the question mark.
Just hit the question mark and that welcome sign will go away.
No, it don't. It's not moving.
It should. Did you hit the question mark there?
Yeah, it could be my mouse. Yeah, I'm clicking like crazy and ain't doing nothing.
Okay. Well, anyways, this is tracking the Weather Service radiosondes. They go up to 100,000, well, somewhere between 60 and 100,000. And they go right through the flight lanes. And they've been doing this for the last, well, let's see, 85 years or so. And so figure out how many thousands of balloons that have gone through our flight lanes. And these are 1 to 2 pound payloads, pretty good sized balloon, much bigger than what was shot down. And there's never been a recorded instance of an impact to an aircraft that caused any kind of serious damage. There have been a couple incidents where somebody's car was dented, you know, these parachuted down and scratched a paint on the car. But even if it landed on you, it wouldn't hurt you because the parachute slows the descent down. So the balloon flights we've flown, we've tried to run out and catch them because we're pretty good at predicting where they land. So, hey, go back to that, the amateur, this is tracker.sondhub.org, which tracks only the Weather Service radiosondes. But if we type in amateur.
Wait, no, there's quite a few in that site there, Bill. I don't think that's just Weather Service, is it? If we type over here, look here. We can actually get a track on these things. Look here, this one.
No, those are all Weather Service balloons, but they're worldwide, Greg.
Yeah, I think this one must have flew over. I saw one the other day just flying over China.
Right. No, they're worldwide. This shows all the weather. There's probably 1,000 a day or more launched worldwide. Look at all the sites that they fly. Every one of those circles is where they launch a radiosonde balloon from. And look how many of them are in China. And surprisingly, there's only one in North Korea, maybe 2.
Well, I guess they don't fly a lot over there.
Well, I will say there are certain areas where we don't want to be transmitting over, and North Korea is one of them. So if one of these Pico balloons go over North Korea or Yemen, I have a geofence box around that country in my computer code that prohibits transmit if we happen to venture across that airspace. And believe it or not, the United Kingdom is one of those do not transmit zones because their radio laws for the amateur radio operators prohibit aerial operation of amateur radio. I don't know why that is. It's probably, maybe it's a holdover from World War II, but it's been that way for decades. And their amateur radio balloon hobbyists have to use license-free transmitters. There's something called LoRa, L-O-R-A, and that's a lot of what they're using now, but they can't use amateur radio.
Hey, all right, guys, check this out. So you can find out a lot of data. Now, these circles that are kind of white, these are where they launch from. These are typically airfields. And so if you click on them, it'll tell you how often they launch. This one launches weekly. Most of these say daily.
Yeah, they're mostly daily.
Yeah, this is every day at 000 UTC.
No, it's twice a day.
Well, it's got 2 on it, and each one is 2 times. Every day at this time and every day at that time. So it's every 12 hours. And that's the most common times. It's like they're all getting launched at 0000 UTC and 1200 UTC. So,
and the really cool thing is, Greg, you can go out and chase these and recover them. And a lot of people just love tracking these down. All you need is a scanner radio that can tune UHF frequencies, hook it into your computer. There's a program that you can download that decodes the data coming down, and it's GPS. It tells you where it is and where it's going to land. So people are having a great time running around finding these things.
That's better than geocaching. Look here on the left.
I was just going to say it's like geocaching on steroids, for those of you who've ever done geocaching.
Yeah, look here on the left, guys. You get all kind of data on these balloons. You find out who manufactured it. You find out, you know, what the temperature is at sensing. That's in C. I see them in F sometimes. You get a lot of data here. The rate that it's moving, altitude.
It's got the frequency that they use, 403 megahertz.
Yeah.
That's the UHF band.
Son type. So, you know, for somebody to come up and say, we got no idea what it is, it's a UFO identified, that's just hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Now go to the, let me make it clear. None of these, all these 150 balloons a day over just the US, none of these are required to file a NOTAM or alert anybody in the FAA that they are flying. That's why they have that Part 101 exemption for meteorological balloons or any kind of balloon that's under the 6 pounds per payload for a total of 12 pounds. That's why they came up with it. So these people didn't have to keep hounding the the FAA. Hey, we're launching. Can you imagine?
You said type in amateur.son or sonhub, and I'm not getting the AMA.
You're spelled amateur wrong. It's it's EUR.
EUR.
Well, you spelled it the most common way they misspell it.
Yeah. Well, I'm an engineer. Who said we could spell
EU? In fact, I had an article submitted to me by a professor who spelled the word amateur 3 different ways, thinking he'd get it right once, and none of them were right.
Yeah, and I was one of the leading amateur balloon, one of the amateur rocket launching guys, and here I'm messing up. Well, the United States is kind of quiet right now. Maybe people are afraid to fly balloons here.
I think they're a little afraid.
Must be it. They're afraid right now. Oh,
now, if you go over to the left,
Europe. Look at Europe. They got stuff going on a little bit. Oh, well.
Yeah, they're usually Europe has got dozens of balloons flying. They're very active in Europe and the UK. Go to W5KUB-112.
Hang on.
You got to click on the left.
Where's it at? Half up or down?
On the left there, W5KUB-112.
W5.
That click on that. Just click on it. That gives you the data, and then zoom out.
Yeah, they're just flying around and around. It's caught in a stationary current out in the middle of the Pacific below Hawaii.
Well, they're over the Hawaiian Islands now.
Is that your balloon?
That's Tom, somebody I've been working with at the when he started flying his balloons. So that's
he's the guy that actually built the payload for the Northern Illinois.
His design was used in the NIBBB. Well, it was actually his design and their design. They came, I think they both members of that group worked with him to develop this smaller payload, I believe. And
they got your code in this thing, a lot of your code.
And part of my code is on it, for they use the same telemetry format. So, so there you get some information about the frequency it's on, the altitude it's at, and I don't believe it's actually parachuting down. If you click on that little blue bar at the bottom, it says,
somehow, listen, I think that there's something changed in the program, because earlier it was showing all balloons.
See where it says 12 hours? Greg, see what it says 12 hours? Click on that link and make it 3 days. Go down to 3 days. That should give you a better track on it.
It's gone.
It'll show up.
What's all the car? Oh, I see. All right. What's all these?
Now you can see some of the path that
all these are chasers. All the balloon chasers are on here.
Yeah, you can turn those off.
All right, now we got some balloons. Okay.
Now the one off the coast of Florida is one of my payloads on a similar balloon that was shot down on similar size, only that's a clear balloon. And if you go to that one, you can see he's at 13,000 meters. And if you click on the settings, you can change it, that little gear to the right of the car on the upper right, you can change it to imperial units.
Little mirror where?
The gear the settings gear next to the car in the upper right-hand corner, right between the cloud and the car. Not that. Go to, yeah, click on that and turn off hide chase cars from the map, and turn off the change it to imperial units, and it'll show you now. There you go. Now it says 42,000 feet.
All right,
So
very good.
this one is using one of my Sky Tracker boards on the 20-meter amateur radio band, and it's a weak signal propagation reporter mode whisperer. Like I say, it's only 0.02 watts. It's hardly enough to light a tiny little LED, but we have a special algorithm that was developed by Ham and Princeton, and it's a weak signal method that digs out the signals from way into the noise level. So it's really cool. We can be actually heard on the other side of the world, and people can download data on the other side of the world with this HF propagation.
Wow.
The ones that are flying in Antarctica right now, they're being heard in the United States, clear on the other side of the world.
Bill,
So this particular one, zoom out a little bit.
we need to work on a post grid down comm system.
So this is kind of a test flight to see if it's going to get shot down or not. So
Well, I hope the
now click on the word on the K6STS-11, click on the float button on the, you see that word that says float to the right of the telemetry there? No, not on the balloon, on the, there. To the right, you see it says float.
Plots.
Yeah, float.
I don't
Click on the float button.
Where's float? I see path, share, and plots.
Oh, plots, click on that.
Okay, plots. Whoa.
Now this is a neat feature. It'll show you altitude and all kinds of neat stuff about it, descent rates and satellites. So this is the real data that you're collecting that helps atmospheric scientists. And this is free data for any researcher to use that's working on wind models. So this is a big benefit to our scientists and worldwide, really. But I know that NOAA uses this for their wind models. Now go back to the main map again, just click out of this.
I hit the back arrow, get me there.
I think you just have to click out of it because it opened up another pop-up there.
Oh,
just X out of it there.
Go back here, okay.
Yeah, there you go. Let's find another one that actually has the prediction plot on it. Go to W5KUB-115 if you can find that one.
KIB-115. I'm not seeing it, Bill.
You'll have to.
Can you scroll these? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it scrolls. There, 115. That's one of the Antarctic balloons that are still flying. You click on that and scan up a little bit on it.
Well, it's got up some altitude. It's above Antarctica. It's on the. Oh
no, it's over south of. That was launched from Antarctica, and it's been aloft for over 3 months, flying around, and it's down now near South Africa and Madagascar. But go over to the left and move that menu up a little bit on the left where the telemetry is, and push that up a little bit. And there, now it's showing float on that one. Click on the float button.
I'll click.
Yeah, now pull the map over so you can see where the predicted flight path.
Ah, okay, there you are. That's what
I was showing how we predicted where that one that got shot down, where it would be. Now you can use the one that they've got here, and then there's one called High Split on the NOAA website. But we're pretty accurate on this. The wind models are getting so good. There's the High Split site. If you enter the latitude, longitude, the wind models, it'll give you a little plot several days in advance of where it likely is going to go. I've plotted them sometimes 5 days in advance, 7 days in advance, and it's predicted its position within 100 miles halfway around the world. So sometimes it could get really, really accurate. And so if, if the Chinese truly, if that truly was a spy balloon, as we were being told, then it could have been a communication internet balloon, just like the Google Loon project for remote China. But I think that big balloon was likely a communication receiver. If I were to do that one, I'd have a little SDR radio, software defined radio, which they make them really small nowadays, hooked up to a Raspberry Pi. And then you send whatever it heard, the data from that, you could send it through a satellite modem back to China or wherever. So it would be really simple to do. They had just a tremendous amount of solar power because they had motors and propellers. And at that altitude, you're at less than 1/10 atmospheric pressure at sea level. You don't get a lot of use out of a propeller, even a ducted fan like it looked like they had on that. But you could steer the array, and looked like they had an antenna array, so you could steer that array or the solar panels to get maximum solar usage, or pinpoint where an RF transmission is coming from. So with a multiple antenna array, you could actually say this transmission came from this location, and that could be likely what they were actually doing.
So kind of like what's written in here. Commercial command and control system or command and control systems, a lightweight RF spectrum monitoring surveillance platform can be made minimally as follows: receiver, Raspberry Pi, SDR, phased array antenna to pinpoint RF source, data retrieval.
So we could make it a heck of a lot lighter, Greg, than what the Chinese did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here's kind of my quick and dirty rendition in a PowerPoint version. Oh, I might be showing too much here.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I have to zoom through this real fast. How to shield radiation, how to hide stuff. Oh yeah. Look,
and we proposed this many years ago.
Yeah, there's a Hart Prize. There's Bill Brown right here. That's Bill. This is the Hart Cat's Prize, Altitude Research Corporation. Bill and I and some others started. Cat's Prize balloon back in the year 2000. And there it is, ascending above the deck of the Mr. Offshore Utility Boat, 200 miles outside the ADIZ, the Air Defense Identification Zone of the United States of America.
Now that balloon there, Greg, is actually at altitude. It was probably about the same size as that China balloon, maybe a little less.
Well, we can show that in a little bit. We can show that because you got the video. People are asking about your channel. This is what an EMP would do from a balloon altitude. This is what it would do from that rocket. 3 of those rockets could cover the United States of America with EMP blast, or a number of these balloons, which could be easily launched from offshore. You could totally devastate the United States of America just from these.
Yeah, balloons. But it would have to be a huge balloon. So
no. I've done the weights. No, Bill, it's less than our Raccoon. Less.
Well, that's still a pretty good size. It's a lot bigger than these little harmless Pico balloons.
Oh, yeah. Those, I've done minimum calculations for what people would have to shoot at. That's one of the things I've been working on. Oh, yeah, this is our balloon launch return vehicle. That little tuft of blonde hair at the end down there is me. And that is Mike Smith, who was the chief engineer for the company that builds these balloons, the only one in the United States. And he is, that was Raven Aerostar. This is our balloon launch return vehicle. So we have built piloted space planes and sent them up on balloons. And that's what can be done from ships, all kind of stuff from ships, guys. Yeah, we could have an ugly day if we got attacked. That's what that's showing. So yeah, I don't know if there's too much of this, but guys, this is kind of what I'm working on. This is just preliminary. I'm still working this up. So basically, what it boils down, you shouldn't shoot down anything at 50,000 feet that's smaller than a bus, or two buses at 30 kilometers, 98,000 feet above. That's what I come up with, basically, in short. I have to put it in simple terms. One bus or two buses, leave it alone. So I'm gonna stop that share. I'm showing too much already. That paper is going to be when it's completed and vetted and run through a bunch of other folks and got a lot more spaghetti added to it. It's going to be presented to the chairman of the House, Homeland Security Committee.
Hey, Greg.
That's going to be
the point of that is, be concerned when you have an unidentified balloon that is really, really big and has a big, heavy payload. That's when you should be concerned about what it is and who it is. When it's a little tiny, in fact, go ahead and show the website, Wix site that I sent you.
Yeah, hang on, go back to that.
And I'll show you the size of the balloon and the payload that flies underneath of it.
So I gotta make this a little bit smaller so I can hit the tabs, because Zoom overlays the tabs on the browser. Let's see, that's theirs. Data, there we are. This is Bill Brown's site. Oh yeah, by the way, the picture I was showing earlier in my data is, I'm gonna open this up a little bit more. It's right here.
So that's the Sky Tracker. It's slightly bigger than the payload that was on that balloon brigade group, but similar concept. On the left, there's a little party balloon, the silver party balloon, about 36 inches in diameter. This was a pancake balloon. In other words, it's when it puffs out, it kind of forms a sphere, but these newer balloons are a sphere, but they're a little less diameter, but they actually have more volume of gas, so they go higher. These would typically go to 30,000, but that balloon only costs $5, whereas these newer balloons cost about $12 to $15, but they go higher, and they can carry a little bit more payload, so you can carry up bigger solar panels. The solar panels are flexible panels. I put those on. They aren't as efficient as the monocrystalline cells that were used in the one that was potentially shot down. But I usually send these out to colleges and universities, high schools, middle schools, and even elementary schools. And they love to touch the solar panels. And if I had the monocrystalline cells on them, they just snap right in half. So these are made by Power Film Solar. They're they're fairly efficient, and they're very rugged and tough. So you could smash this into the ground, and that has happened on liftoff if it's in a wind. So and that balloon's, like I say, it's only 36 inches across. When it is uninflated, when it's inflated, it shrinks down to about 30 inches or so. There's the actual circuit board, close up, has a GPS receiver, a microcontroller, a little synthesizer for the transmitter, and a little voltage regulator. That's it. And it's got a temperature sensor, and it measures the solar panel voltage. That's all it does. And it just receives it transmits every 10 minutes your location, altitude, solar panel voltage, and temperature. And anyways, this gives you an idea. I had to raise the price on it a little bit because the part shortage has been absurd. We've had all kinds of part shortages. Some was due to factory slowdowns due to the pandemic, but all parts costs have gone up at least 20%. So it's sad, but it's just a case of that rampant inflation.
Inflation.
Anyway, that just gives you an idea. It can be launched with one hand and only takes about a cubic foot of lifting gas. One of those little party tanks. I wouldn't recommend using one of the party tanks you can get from Dollar General or Walmart, because it's not very pure helium, so they'll fly lower and not work as well. But go to some place like Dollar General and inflate it with their good party balloon tank. The big tanks they have in their stores is pretty good helium. So
somebody asked how susceptible this would be to a solar flare in the chat room.
I don't think it would be affected. It might affect the float altitude a little bit as the atmosphere expands. So you might see a little rise in the altitude. And that actually is an interesting study.
Yes, satellites are concerned about them, but they're usually a little bit bigger. Most of the waveforms from a solar flare are larger than the circuit should have on here. In fact, the main thing you get out of a solar flare is called E3. E3 is a very long wave that gets picked up by long conductors like power lines and rail lines and pipelines. And you get E3 is a component of an EMP too. They didn't experience the E3 when you had the Starfish Prime over Hawaii, because they don't have any long power lines. They don't even have any power transformers for long distance transformer in Hawaii, because it's a little island. So, and it was also back in '62 when that was done. So you didn't have the electronics that weren't back then that were so susceptible to E1 either. But they still had a bunch.
They had power blackouts all over parts of Hawaii when that
They
went.
still had blackouts. They still had lights that got shot out. But still, if it happened today, or if it also, you got to bear in mind the EMPs are worse where your magnetic field lines converge more. That being near the equator wasn't as bad. But if it happened there today, it'd be worse. But if it happened somewhere where it's a continental power system, it'd been a lot worse. And I got data on the Russian test. You know, I've seen you got EPRI out there telling people there's nothing burger, blah, 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 blah. You know what? They don't look at the data of what actually happened. They need to look at the data from the Russian test where they were testing over Kazakhstan. Oh, yeah. A little 300 kiloton device at 190 kilometers up did a lot of damage to underground power systems. A lot of people don't realize that E3 goes underground. So these people buying stuff that's going to get everything shut to the ground. Ha, 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 ha. So, yeah, anyway.
Now I will say, Greg, as far as this tracker goes, I supply these to student groups, individuals, and amateur radio groups. And this is really a labor of love, because I want to promote STEM education. So we have our future engineers to take over when we retire. And I mean, I'm a gray beard engineer and I don't have a gray beard, and you are definitely a gray beard engineer, Greg.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
You've got enough beard to make up for me not having one.
Oh yeah, I grow part of it just for you, Bill, just for you.
So anyways, this, I'm not the only designer and maker of this. There are several other companies that are making these to sell to experimenters, and there are different sizes, but basically the same concept and the same kind of telemetry format. There's slight differences in the format of how they encode the data, but it's very, very similar. Fly on the same kind of balloons and right around the same weight range. Some of them are really tiny, but then you have to put a little foam structure to mount the board and the solar panels on. I chose, instead of having it on a piece of foam, which adds weight, to actually put the solar panels attached to the board. So it made it a little bit bigger, but in the end run, it saves you a lot of assembly work.
That's cute. So, like a little satellite. I remember watching one of these at one of your birthday parties several years ago.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've been doing these. We've been hundreds of these have been flown over the years. They've been going for well, I've been actually providing these for 5 or 6 years, and I've been flying them for 7 years or more.
It's probably
So
6 or 7 years ago from one of the restaurants in downtown Huntsville. We launched one of these, and then we went inside and we tracked it. All right, can weather, rain affect? No, these are flying above the weather, Billy the Kid. There's no weather up where these go typically. If you get, Thunderhead goes up to maybe 40,000 feet. Once you get above that, you're above most of the stuff. Now, some of these balloons may drift down into that over time, but when they start out, they're going to be up there a little ways. So, and somebody else, let's see, Brandon R says, don't China have enough satellites?
frequency over the world that their software, free software, funnels that to receive data into a distributed server, and shows up on a map. And so that's the beauty of it. And the one that uses HF propagation, it has a similar thing where people are listening to a particular frequency range, and with a particular software that loads that to a map. So I actually had to write a Python script to grab the data from the HF tracking site and convert it to the balloon map site. So I run a little Python script during a mission when I use the long range HF boards. I also have an VHF one that's line of sight only, that when I'm just flying over the United States. But it will work on other countries. It's just that over your ocean, you aren't going to see it.
All right. Now we had somebody asking about in the chat room about military satellites and things. Says, don't China have enough satellites in the atmosphere? No, satellites try to stay out of the atmosphere. They'll crash if you're in the atmosphere. The atmosphere drops off as you go up. There's a little bit, so you have to reboost if you're in low Earth orbit. But the key thing is this: at a satellite altitude, you can't pick up things like cell phone data. There's some stuff we transmit here to ground level that just don't carry up that high well enough to receive. So,
well, you hit too many cell towers. They have launched weather balloons with a cell phone in it, saying, "Hey, this is going to work great." And once you get up a few thousand feet, you're hitting too many cell towers, and it just stops working. Sometimes I'll go up maybe 20,000 feet, about the limit, but quite often it won't even work that far.
You've got transfer.
If you've driven up on a mountain, you'll know. I mean, I live on a mountain, and if I move a foot or two either way, my cell service drops out. So,
yeah, people are concerned you don't clear coat the board. That's too much weight. They're trying to keep.
Oh no, well, let me tell you a little bit about that. The reason for that, weight, and it's not necessary, because at the altitudes it flies, it's going to be above the weather.
Yeah,
and if the weather does get that high, your balloon's coming down anyways.
Yeah.
Weather is a big thunderstorm could knock one of these out, even flying at 45,000 feet, but it's pretty rare. Once you get up from about 45,000 feet to 50,000 feet, you'll probably be staying up a long time, many months. When you're down below 40,000 feet, you're at more risk, particularly during the summer months. And so, but if you can float one of these at 60,000 feet, there'd be nothing that could take it down. But we don't have a big enough, inexpensive super pressure balloon that can take us, even with an 8-gram payload, to 60,000 feet yet. We've had one go to 53,000. So, and it's been up for 240 days, I think.
Yeah. Well, they were asking from an intel standpoint of a spy balloon, basically. So, yeah, there's a lot of data you can snoop at that altitude, especially in a slower loiter altitude like they were.
Well, that's the advantage. If you wanted to, with a spy satellite that's low Earth orbiting, which if you have a geostationary spy satellite, your signal levels have dropped so low, it would be really hard to receive all those signals and pinpoint them. The lower the altitude, the better for that. You want to be, the nice thing about 60,000 feet is that your signal strengths are going to be good, and you still cover about a 300-mile radius. from your balloon. So anything within 300 miles, you're going to be able to listen to. And but here's the nice thing: at that altitude, that's the lowest wind speeds year round, between about 55 to 75,000 feet. Your slowest wind, so you can fly very slowly across the targeted area and collect data at your leisure. But if you're up around 100,000 feet or more, particularly during the winter, you can be screaming along at 100 knots or even 150 knots up there. Maybe I've seen them as high as 200 knots around 120,000 feet. There's kind of a stratospheric jet stream going on. But the advantage of flying up there is you get wider coverage out to 400 or 500 miles, and it's much harder to shoot down. But I think what they were trying to do with this one is if you want to steer up and down, you can bring in air through a air pump system, and that adds weight to the system, and you go down in altitude. Then you remove the air. You probably have a bladder of some sort within the main balloon.
It's called a ballonnet.
A ballonnet, it's called, yeah. Actually, the early days, they called it a cannibal balloon. But you have two balloons in one. You know, you got the main balloon, and then you got a balloon inside that you bring air in. And likely this balloon had that capability. And because Google Loon had a similar concept. And what you do is you steer your altitude up and down, probably between 50 and 70,000 feet. And you can catch different wind speeds and wind directions, because in that region, if you just move it down a few thousand feet, it can make a big difference of where it goes. So you can actually steer a balloon and predict where it's going to go using models like that high split site we showed earlier. So yeah, if they chose the right time to launch from the other side of the world, they could actually predict that, yeah, this particular day, I have my most likelihood of going across the center part of the United States, and then they can fine tune it by going up and down in altitude. I didn't see any indication that they had that capability as they came across the US. So it is possible that they either A, turned everything off when they did, or B, they had a failure of some sort, and it truly was a runaway balloon.
All right, so
but I modeled I did a model of the balloon from the report over Montana, and the flight path around 60,000, somewhere between 58 and 60,000 feet. That wind model showed it going across Kansas City and across South Carolina and right out to where they shot it down, and it modeled it pretty close.
Yeah, and a lot of people are asking about how fast do these balloons go up, these little ones. I want you to talk about how fast one of these rise, how fast the latex balloon rises, and how fast a raccoon.
Typically, these take about 2 hours to get up to altitude. They go up about 100 to, well, about less than 200 feet per minute for these small super pressure balloons. You don't want to go up too fast, because if you have that much lift in it, it's going to pop the balloon when you get it to altitude. It'll be an overpressure to where the material can't handle it. You have to have enough, however, that after the solar heating effects at night go away, you still want to maintain that volume or have a positive pressure inside the balloon. So it's a fine window of too little extra lift or too much extra lift. And sometimes it can be pretty narrow. We have to measure the lift to the fractional gram level to make sure we get it right to make these a success. But through a lot of calculation and a lot of empirical data, that translates to a lot of flight failures. I dumped a lot of these in the Atlantic trying to get it right. We finally came up with a range of where you could have almost guaranteed success. And so it's a couple grams of difference. So I put what I recommend to people is I put it right in the middle of that band, and there you go. So super pressure balloons are a lot more difficult to get to work than some balloon, like a hot air balloon or a balloon that requires ballast, which they call those zero pressure balloons.
Yeah, well, we found some zero pressure balloons. Let me show the video so everybody can see. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's a 300-pound rocket.
Bill right there.
I was a little worried because when I was filming that, I noticed that the balloon and the rocket was right over the ship, and I was worried that if it breaks now and falls through the ship, we're goners.
Sunk the ship.
Yeah. Now, you do not want to fly a payload of that size and a balloon of that size without prior authorization and clearing the airspaces. We actually had Eglin Air Force Base clear the airspace for us. So there was no commercial aviation flights anywhere near during that flight.
Yeah, we shut down Gulf Route, I believe it was 36, working with the Eglin Air Force Range Control. So, and we had to talk with them and be communication.
Oh, it took months to get clearance to do that. And this is the actual launch from in the stratosphere. The rocket launching, we were supposed to launch it right through the balloon, but we missed it because the rocket engine fell off.
So look, these tubes hanging down are the vent tubes. This is a zero pressure balloon. It's designed that way so it won't bust when it gets to altitude going fast.
And you see how big the balloon is now compared to what it was when we launched it from the deck of the balloon. All that loose material has inflated out because of the pressure difference.
Right. There we go. There's a rocket off to the side there. There's the balloon.
Actually, that's the balloon.
See, you can see the vent tubes now as it's bouncing around. There's a vent tube. I had 4 vent tubes put on it because I want to make darn sure it didn't bust. That's supposed to be the tear out panel right there. That's where you're supposed to fire a piece of ordnance and it rips this down. We got that tied in to a weight on this balloon. So yeah, we have ordnance on. They all have ordnance on. So it's kind of funny. They'll say, well, it might have ordnance on. That's what you expect is ordnance. Now somebody got a cute little commercial there. But anyway, so people ask about Bill's channel.
It's WB8ELK on YouTube. You can see my early balloon flights and some of our Cat's Prize and all that stuff.
WB8ELK. That's WB for Bill Brown, William Brown, 8 and elk. WB.
That's my ham radio, amateur radio call sign. And just search for that on YouTube and you'll see some of the early flights we did.
Yep.
And some of the more modern flights. I'll have to upload some of the Pico flights. Click on the Angry Birds in Near Space and let that play for a little while. I wanted to show part of that.
Yeah, I was going to find one where we launched from the.
Hey, I'm Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer. And
oh, gee, you got an ad.
It actually involves.
That's not the video. That's the ad.
Yeah, and you're not even monetized, and you get ads. Everything now.
You can. Does it say skip? There you go. All right. So we did this as a summer camp for Indiana Space and Science Camp. And the rage back then was Angry Birds in space. So we decided to send an angry bird to the edge of space. Now, see, it's a nice, beautiful sunny day with blue skies and clouds. And there's the balloon that we're going to carry it with. And this is typical of a latex weather balloon student experiment. Those balloons cost about $80 to $100. And back then you could fill it up with about $60 or $70 worth of helium and it would lift this. We carried up tracking equipment that gave us position and a communications experiment so that you could do emergency comms when cell phones, and internet goes down during a hurricane or an ice storm, and you can send up a relay to the stratosphere, and you can talk to people all over a certain section of the country. And so that's one of the cool applications you can do with high altitude balloons. So this is the southern Indiana countryside, showing all the farmland. Also another feature, this is the stratosphere. There's the thin blue line of the Earth's atmosphere, and we're above 90% of the Earth's atmosphere at this altitude at 81,000 feet. And we can see 350 to 400 miles in all directions. But see how black it is? That's the really cool thing. So we truly sent an angry bird in near space. Near space is the region where the stratosphere starts, which is right around 55, 60,000 feet, up until the very definition of the Kármán line where actual space exists.
Which is 100 kilometers.
Which is 100 kilometers.
The aim point, we were
near space is a big area. Now you can fast forward this a little bit now that we've seen the angry bird flying in space. There goes one of the payloads that we track. But you can see how far you can see, and there's the sun. That's actually a Find Me Spot unit. It's a global star unit that hikers use, and we use that for, there you go. We'll just let it run from that point off. We're parachuting back down. The balloon bursts, a parachute opens up, and you come down. And with all that flat, open Indiana farmland, where do you think we landed?
Got to land in a tree.
In a tree. Well, we drove into the woods, and there was a guy with a chainsaw. He was cutting trees down in that very spot. And he says, well, I was going to cut that tree down tomorrow. There it is.
Very, very, very angry bird.
There's the angry bird way up 100 feet in the tree.
Into the edge of space.
And that's
angry. That'd make him angry.
So he volunteered to cut the tree down since he was going to cut that tree down tomorrow. And he went ahead and cut it, worked a little overtime and cut it down for us. This is a massive tree. When it fell, the ground shook. It felt like an earthquake. See how big that tree is? And there goes our payload coming down to land. Boom. And all we do is walk up to the top of the tree. That's Bev Teeter. And she's WD4ELK.
Angry bird at last.
Angry bird.
Well, he's been on quite an adventure.
Hey, Bill, you got a pocket knife?
3 teeth. This is
Now,
cricket astronauts.
one of the student experiments was to send fishing crickets into the edge of space. Now, keep in mind, it's a near vacuum and 50 below zero.
Yeah, brother, right.
The internet rumor was that crickets could hold their breath for 2 hours. So we decided to test it.
You had holes. You had holes in the cup.
And it was exposed to the outside elements, and they all survived.
5.
Wow.
The internet rumor was true. Crickets can hold their breath.
Or maybe
No cricket astronauts or angry birds were harmed during the filming of this.
Well, you know what? Actually, crickets don't have lungs to hold their breath. They breathe through little pores in their abdomen and side, and the oxygen is wicked in. And the size of the insect is limited by how far oxygen can wick in to the interiors. And that's why our insects are not so big today. Some people think the Earth, when we had ginormous 2-foot dragonflies, that the oxygen content of the Earth's atmosphere was more. I would submit it was not. It's just we had more air pressure. The atmosphere was thicker in those days. Cometary impacts have been eroding our atmosphere thinner and thinner. And I think it's one reason we don't have dinosaur-sized animals anymore. But if you had a dinosaur today, it probably wouldn't be no bigger than a horse, because we just don't have the air pressure to support that kind of stuff. You gotta remember, a brontosaurus nostrils are only as big as a horse nostril. And today, with the atmosphere pressure being what it is, if you were as big as a brontosaur, your blood vessels in your legs would bust wide open. You couldn't even survive. So a creature can't even get that big walking on land. Now, sea creatures might have a problem, but on land, it would be a real issue. So let's see. That was some fun stuff there. I was wondering if we can find the Space and Rocket Center balloon launch on here. We probably need to go in a minute. We've been here for a long time.
There's a balloon burst. That's
Let me hit videos here because that's the way to find all the videos on the channel. You go and click videos, guys, because the playlist don't always show a lot of stuff. You can see a couple of there's one from the university. Space Camp balloon. That's it. Y'all can see me young in here.
In the race for market leadership,
Oh, come on.
SEMrush Trends is
These commercials.
upgrades you need to take your.
All right, here we go.
NASA jealous here on News for 1910.
Why would the folks around?
World Space Camp students managed to go out of this world without a rocket. How in the world are in Huntsville tonight attending International Space Camp at the Space and Rocket Center.
And to help kick off their exciting week of science, News Center 19 Dick Curtis says they helped send a package to the edge.
we did this one over 20 years ago.
It's
I
not.
actually had heirlooms, and it was not silver.
It was almost 30 years ago, Bill.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
That's when the Saturn V was still outside. There's me back there.
If you were to ride along with this balloon, you could see from Florida to Ohio.
Bill's been sending up balloons.
Yeah, there I am 30 years ago.
If all goes as planned,
That's
this
me.
balloon will zoom up well over 100,000 feet above the valley and send back full color video.
That was Jim Scala that you saw there just a minute ago.
National Space Society,
There you get a good idea of the balloon size.
part of Space Camp.
That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for a balloon.
The camera was working great, sending back video on a
They
ham
took
radio
all those
transmitter.
rockets down.
And this would be no.
Wow.
They're
It
not
would
there
take
anymore.
about 2 hours to get up to 120,000 feet, high enough to see the curvature of
Hey, there I am. Well, my beard was red.
the Earth and the blackness of space.
Not as long for sure.
The balloon did everything Bill hoped it would. At
Yeah, there, red beard.
120,000 feet.
Short
it
hair,
burst,
shorter.
And a parachute brought the camera and transmitter back to Earth. Hams on the ground tracked its descent and knew it landed north of Huntsville. As it turned out, the pictures coming from the balloon told where. Folks at the Lincoln County Courthouse looked at the video and knew.
Right there. That's the McGee's chicken houses.
The McGee's
The tax assessor knows all.
After listening to the ham radio operators searched near his farm for about an hour, there it was,
That guy wrote the software I used to use, Kilthall.
out in the middle of the.
He wrote a whole language, computer code language. That used to
Yeah, yeah.
first.
That's very, very lengthy.
Clear space to
So this is before GPS was very popular, and so we used direction finding to find it. Those are tough days back then.
We used DF on a lot of stuff back then. DF, that was what we used to try to
You
locate.
know, the direction finding, like you saw in World War II movies, where they're trying to find the spy transmitter with chase vehicles and antennas arrays. That's how we had to track these before GPS became available. But nowadays it's real easy. It tells you right where it is. I actually have a dog collar that you can buy that tracks your dog. I've sent those up in balloons to track them, and they actually work pretty well.
Health 9000 is in our room. He says, I've just picked up a fault in the AE35 unit. It's going to 100% failure in 72 hours.
But you know how they came up with the HAL acronym in 2001, do you?
IBM.
Well, you're supposed to ask the audience.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You know who told me that?
Fred Ordway.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Well, Arthur C. Clarke told you that. You know, he denied that later, but we know better.
He told me that privately.
Yeah, this is HAL 5. That's the organization we were working with, launching that I founded back in 1983. 10 years before we were out there with that balloon. No, that was 11 years before. in Huntsville, Alabama, L5 says, I got this for our 30-year thing. And that I got this now 10 years ago. So HAL 5 has been a club for 40 years. I started that thing when it first started up, HAL 5. And so we started the altitude liftoff program. Hello, and get a rocket from a balloon and off we go. And then we started off a company called Altitude Research Corporation. And for those that don't know, right here, this is the HARC, Altitude Research Corporation, cheap access to space, CATS prize fuel grain to our rocket motor. Hydroxyl terminated polybutadiene. Most of y'all have seen me hold this up before. It makes a great stand for my laptop. That's what I use it for. I use it as my laptop stand, so I can have my laptop beside me here and watch y'all's chat notes. That's what that's used for now, so I can keep up with your chat. That's what that rocket motor does now.
Your laptop is rocket powered.
Yeah.
Just don't smoke.
I've worked on space stations several years. Oh, HAL 9000. That's right. The ISS, International Space Station. We called it Space Station Freedom when I first started working.
You know, we have a ham radio station on the ISS, and most of the astronauts that go up for a mission up there do get their amateur radio license, and they operate. When they are available during the free time and they happen to have a pass that goes to the US, I can use my ham radio and talk directly to the astronauts in the space station. And they have a relay where you can send data signals up, bounce it off through their radio and as a repeater, and it can come down, 1,000 miles away or more. So it's, and for a while, the Soviet section was sending down images as an audio. It's called slow scan television, and it would take about 2 minutes to send one image, but it's audio frequencies. So you can actually put a little app on your smartphone, hold it up to the speaker of your radio, and see a picture live downloaded from the International Space Station. And it was really cool what they have been doing with amateur radio on that.
Yeah, when we first started our HAL 5 club, there was a local journalist in Huntsville named David Bowman. Yeah, and he reported about us in the Huntsville News. He used to be Huntsville Times and Huntsville News, and he said our name sounded like the granddaddy of HAL 9000.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we had a lot of fun. Actually, one of our first speakers was a science writer for the Huntsville Times. He used to publish a space and missile defense section in the newspaper. It was like Huntsville Times used to be like a space magazine. Part of it did. He later became the editor-in-chief of Space World magazine. He's still active in other areas. David Doolin, another David. So let's say hello, GG. The character we love. Well, thank you, Granny. Thank you. We have a little fun here. We're all a big family. So we still got 63 following us. We've been on here for almost, well, it says 98 minutes, but I'm looking like it's more like 2 hours almost. Getting close. Bill?
Well, the message I want to send is that this Pico balloon program that people are just learning about has been publicly out there. We've written papers or scientific papers out there describing how they work in detail. There were several articles, rtl-sdr.com. That's RTL Radio Tango Lima -sdr.com. And if you type that in fact, go ahead and do that if you can, Greg, and bring that website up. That has probably the most detailed news report showing the electronics that was used in this particular balloon. They did different modules.
Run that by me again. Run that website by me again.
It was RTL radio-sdr.com.
Oh, I've already got it up. Yeah. I think
They sell software-defined radios.
yeah, hang on now. Let me go back to share screen share. I'll find the right screen. There's many screens open. Jeez. We are now. Go back in the share screen. Ding, 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 ding. And that is right there.
And I think the particular balloon that was in question of being shot down used the individual boards. There's a little microcontroller board, there's a synthesizer board, and there's the block diagram of what they used in their particular board. These are all available. To be purchased. Adafruit is one source, and there's places that you can buy on. But there's a lot of information on this website of exactly what was in it and how it works. And there's actually, that's a picture of one of my balloons and one of my trackers that the Naval Academy flew in Annapolis. They had a program launching these years ago to teach the students how to, engineering concepts.
Nice. All righty.
And scan down a little bit, you can see some more information. You see there's all kinds of links on here. There's that prediction map I was telling you about. Now look, that little black star on the southwest coast, just above the Aleutian Islands, was the last point where it was last heard, which was February 10th. In the late afternoon. Actually, I'm sorry, February 10th, right around 6 p.m. UTC. I mean, midnight UTC, that's right. So that's when the sun got low enough that it stopped transmitting. So that was the last known position. This is the high split prediction showing where it should have gone. And that little yellow triangle shows the approximate location at the time and the date when something was shot down over the Yukon. So and you can see that's a pretty close approximation.
Here it is, and here it is by the tracker.
Right. So if you follow that track on down towards the Hudson Bay,
that's where it would have. That's James Bay right there.
That's where it would have gone 2 days later, and it would have been definitely low enough to start operating. It never showed up again. And it has been operating since October and been around the world 6 times. So they shot it down just shy of their 7th lap, which is a shame. But that's pretty tight correlation. So circumstantially, we can say there's definitely a possibility that was the one. We can't say 100% because we may never know, because that missile probably vaporized everything.
Yep.
I guarantee you there's nothing to find.
Oh yeah, there's nothing to find.
Except missile debris.
Missile debris. There we are. Look at that.
And that's the search area they're showing. So that's a pretty good correlation.
Yep, I would say that was it. Most likely.
And that's, by the way, that's where the Antarctic balloons were launched that I was talking about. That's the Neumayer, the German Neumayer station, where our local grad student, Todd McKinney, KN4TPG is his ham radio call sign. He got a grant to go to Antarctica and launch 8 of these. And like I say, 3 of them are still floating around.
Oh, you can get grants to go to Antarctica and launch these things. Bill, we're missing out. That sounds like fun.
It costs $20,000 just for the airfare.
Oh yeah. But if he got a grant, see, that was covered.
I said, I want to go with you. And he says, well, your airfare is $20,000 if you want to go. Oh, by the way, some of you heard a news report about Romania scrambling and trying to shoot down a balloon over Romania. That was likely one of our Pico balloon experimenters group as well. Fortunately, they didn't shoot that one down.
Is it too high for
They couldn't find it.
them?
They saw it on radar, but they couldn't find it with their fighter jets. But that particular balloon, I believe, is approaching China, so we'll see. I don't know if it's going to go over China, but
China's saying they're going to shoot everything down now.
yeah, we'll see if it makes it.
Oh, well. Well, this has been fun. Everybody have a good time watching us tonight. I'll probably go live on Green Greg shortly. We'll pick another topic. I will mention this video. I got to do some conditioning on the video so y'all can watch it later here on Galactic Greg's and come back and see it. I've had some great super chats. I want to thank you all who gave us the super chats. And I'll thank the mods for all the keeping up with everything in this room. We had the trolls that sometimes show up on other channels haven't been coming here yet so much, and that's good. So y'all share the videos and let's get this out and get word out. And we're trying to make the future a better place. We got a lot of stress in the world today, a lot of warfare kind of stuff out there on the horizon. So we got to be careful here today, guys. That's why I have cover prepping on my other channel. But I'm not all doom and gloom. I got some optimism. That's why we do this space stuff. But space, this is one place where space and war, they kind of intersect, unfortunately. And so this is a good topic for both of my channels. But I figured with Bill, this was going to be a little more space centric. So I decided to host it over here on Galactic Greg because we get less views that way. But I may upload it later to Green Greg's possibly. So Chris, appreciate that. Yep. And I appreciate everybody for being here. Hey, there we got new days. All right. So guys, Bill Brown, let me stop the share. Hey, hello. Hanging a rocket from a balloon, off we go. Bill Brown is a rocket man. He can, let's see. No, let's see. I got that's Tim Pickens. I had a verse for everybody in our group once upon a time. Let's see. What was my one for Bill? Bill Brown had taken us 100,000 feet off the ground. That was part of it. I don't remember how it all went now. She'd have spent 30 years.
You had a song for everybody, I know.
I had a song for everybody in the group. I've always been poetic, have I not?
Yes, yes, you have.
I've always been poetic. But hey, watch it. The most apex predators are the ones that laugh and play the most. So,
well, the message tonight is don't be afraid of balloons. They're our friends.
That's right.
Except for those really, really big ones that are spying on us.
Really, really large and dangerous. Yeah, guys, so that's what I'm doing in my white paper. I'm working up the criteria to distinguish dangerous balloons from the ones that we should let go and leave alone. And that's part of it. But it's also in part to paint what the real threat is from these bigger balloons. It's a lot worse than you might want to think, especially given that China now has basically the equivalent of an air force and a balloon force on Hainan Island. And I'm just learning that they're capable of launching thousands of balloons. That's not good. So the United States of America is nowhere near prepared for that. And that could be a catastrophe for us. I believe we have a balloon gap to kind of echo the gap discussions from Dr. Strangelove. We've been citing one of Kubrick's other movies here tonight, 2001. But so I'll go back to Dr. Strangelove there for a moment. Now
well, then I'll go yeehaw.
Yeah, we called her buddy Slim
Pickens riding the nuclear bomb to the ground.
Well, Tim Pickens did ride a rocket-powered bicycle.
Oh, Tim Pickens did, but I'm talking about Slim Pickens.
Yeah, well, we called our Tim Pickens Slim Pickens a lot. Maybe Tim will watch this tonight. He sometimes sleeps in our chat rooms. Yeah, I discovered him there the night, didn't realize him, and started talking about David Christensen. I thought, who in here knows about David Christensen? And I looked, and it's Tim. Anyway, all righty, guys. Hey, thank you all for watching. Bill, thank you so much. It's always fun having you on. For those that don't know, if you're just joining, Bill Brown is an old friend of mine from way back. How we met is a whole story to itself. We'll have to tell it one day. But so I'd like to have you back on, Bill. We'll talk some more balloon and space stuff. And Bill and I are kind of we're thinking of to blow the dust off the High Altitude Research Corporation and get chasing some balloon business again. We're in a balloon deficit, a balloon gap. And
Well, we need to fix that, yes.
we know how to fill it. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you everybody for being here. Share this. Hey, the story of this balloon, the shoot down this balloon, and it being a party balloon, it broke on my channels. I posted it on Green Greg's, here on Galactic Greg's, and even on Swivelhead News days before it ever showed up anywhere else. And they're all giving credit to Aviation Leak in Space Technologies for breaking the story. Nah, they didn't break it. But I only got 3,000 views on the most viewed part of that. So I thought it would go, I thought this would go viral given the topic. It was so big in the news. So guys, share my stuff out there and let's get these channels discovered. Thank you, Bill. Sorry they shot your balloon down. Well, thanks for being here, Billy. It's life. We'll move on. We'll launch some more balloons, maybe a lot more. So let's keep looking up, my friends. Like some of those astronomers used to say, keep looking up. Anyway, guys, thank you again. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank y'all super chatters. And we will catch y'all later. And I will be over on Green Greg's in a few minutes. So with that, I'll say thank you for watching and see you there. Goodbye. Yeah. Hang on a minute.